Hey, what's up, guys? It's me, TSPRavshiva, the spiritual philanthropist. So here we're looking at a picture here of what they call the Nordic aliens, right? And a lot of the times, uh, they've been seen quite a bit all throughout time, and recorded in history as well. More so recently than I think before. And you have the grays in the picture there, and some other different types of maybe alien babies of some sort. But for some reason, there's always these Nordic greys that they talk about that look like they're from Sweden or something like that, which I find kind of funny and also interesting at the same time, you know. But well, you take a look at it and then we'll discuss it from there. Let's take a look.
Case Betty Andreasson. And the reason, there's lots of reasons for it. First, Betty's story is so compelling. Betty had heard and repeated what she thought was star language. In other words, it was not an intelligible language to her. But when I read it and then listened to the transcript, it was very clear that it had something to do with Gaelic, but it wasn't Gaelic. It was something like Gaelic, and I've found an expert in the UK, as I recall, and he said it was a very old form of Gaelic and that it meant children of the northern people, you wander in eternal darkness. And that has been a kind of byword of mine ever since.
I don't know. There are a few, like there's.
So wait, just before they go any further, that was Betty and something. It was an interracial couple actually back in I believe it was the 50s or 60s, somewhere around that time, and they were, a very rare couple at that time, but they were traveling on the road to go somewhere, and they didn't realize, but sometimes at some point in time, they were having these nightmares and these dreams and a lapse of time, and then they end up getting this regression therapy. And the regression therapy helped them. They were being hypnotized and regressed backwards. And then they started coming up with all these things that they were seeing. Both of them were done separately. And when they compared the notes, they both saw almost exactly identically the same thing. The only thing with Betty, the wife, the one that they're mentioning here, she didn't only hear languages, she also drew a map, and people couldn't figure out what the map was until someone looked at it, who I think had been an astronomer, and said that looks like the map of a certain part of Orion's belt. And when they checked it and they put it next to it, it was almost exactly the same as the I think it was Zeta Reticuli 1 and Zeta Reticuli 2 in Orion's belt. And that's why both Betty and her husband became so famous. What they're talking about here now with the Gaelic language is interesting because they said they translated it. So there's a lot of stuff that goes on like this, but it seems to go under the radar purposely. They try to keep it on the down low for some reason, and well, I think we all kind of know why. In some aspects, they don't want the entire world to know or want people to panic, maybe, or they're just trying to suppress technology and leak it out to make a lot of money from it. There's a whole bunch of different things, but my whole thing is I think that my twist on it is that I believe that we're already connected with them through the virtual world and through the internet, because I think the only way that they can survive is through a virtual world, and they're probably using their own essence through data uploaded somehow long distance, maybe by light, data through light, and through a simulated reality or a metaverse type of thing like Zuckerberg has, we can interact with them. And that's probably what this is in my eyes. But anyway, let's look further and see what they say here.
The Ingo Swan at the supermarket, saying this woman is ravishing. And I believe she was kind of this tall, blonde, beautiful woman.
There's two of them that happen in the.
Okay, the first thing is that why do they all have to be tall and blonde, the aliens? So what's scary to me is that, and nobody wants to ask this question, but I will ask it. Imagine if they're like how they were back in like the 20s and stuff like that, or if they're like, they're still like, if we think of how white people were super racist back in the day, imagine if there's another planet or a galaxy filled with a whole bunch of racist white people. I'm just saying that as a joke, guys. I don't take it personal. I'm just like, I like to talk a lot of crap, so forgive me. But you gotta laugh sometimes when you think about it, because you never hear that they found like some, black aliens running around that are all angry about life and want to, it's like they want, what is it called? I'm sorry, I'm being really stupid. But I just think it's funny. You know, we want reparations. We came back to Earth to get reparations. Or you have a bunch of, Mexican aliens. Of course, Trump probably would not let them into the country because they would be considered illegal for some reason. Like, they're not from Mexico. We're going to have to build a wall around the entire Earth. I'm just being dumb, guys. I'm just having fun with it. But, it is really interesting that they do have different races of aliens. I do find that interesting. We have to see. We have to see what goes on. Imagine how we would know if all the stuff that we do here on this planet is genetic, is if we finally get to another planet where there are white people, black people, Indian people, and it's all the exact same. You see Indian people owning not 7-Elevens, but another form of it, like 724s or whatever, and instead of driving taxis, they're driving like flying cars that are flying taxis, and they're painted yellow. And then they have scammers that are all with the Indian accent on another planet. We know that's genetic. Then you have a bunch of black people that are angry and they're pissed off and they're all rappers. And we'll know that on that planet is proving that in our planet from Earth, everything that people say about racism is true. That's how we know. And when we find out when we go there that all the white people there are all angry, wearing white sheets over their head, and they hate people of color, they're like, hey, this is not just Earth. This is happening everywhere. Or is it just happening on Earth? Is that why we're so, kept in the dark? Maybe the aliens out there are like, man, if we go back to this Earth planet, the people there are pretty backwards. They're all still angry about colors, and races and different ideas. So we don't want to introduce ourselves over here because we might become a problem to them. So I'm just being funny, guys. But you have to think like that. Like, what if we are the worst place in the universe to go to? What if Earth is the most primitive and we think we're so evolved? It's good to think about these things, though. Oh, I can't wait until I see my first angry black alien. I'll be like, hey, what planet are you from? Do you know about the Nordic whites? Are they racist? I'm just being dumb, guys. But it's fun to have fun. It's always good to laugh.
Same year, and that's Travis Walton that I believe 100%. And then there's the Billy Meyer story that I believe at 30%.
The Nordics really first appeared with the Billy Meyer work and case, and that's a very, very, very complicated case.
And then, of course, something we experienced together that our audiences will see at some point is Charles Hall, who spoke to the tall whites, spent a lot of time with them, but also the Nordic people with the 24 teeth.
I'll tell you, I have two, I call them bookend stories. They go perfectly together.
I was following Timothy Good, Above Top Secret. That was my research encyclopedia for Making Out of the Blue, and then I don't remember if he talks about it in a book or if it was a subsequent interview, but he talks about him seeing one and then communicating telepathically. And Timothy Good, in my book, was a very credible guy. He's a prolific writer and considered to be a.
I mean, honestly, you have to stop and think why is it mostly, because you know about the grays, right? But they're gray, okay? And then out of the gray ones, then all of a sudden there are white ones with blonde hair and blue eyes. It's almost, I feel like this is somehow, how they, in the beginning when Hollywood first came out, everybody was blonde hair and blue eyed. They were all the stars. It's now that they're bringing the whole UFO thing into picture, or into frame, that they're still doing the same thing. They're still typecasting and say, well, they have to be. Come on, they're blonde hair, blue eyed. It's a highly intelligent, evolved race. They would have to be blonde hair, blue eyed. I don't know. I'm just thinking. I'm trying to think why is everything always like that? And then we find out 2,000 years later that Christ wasn't exactly blonde hair and blue eyed. He was actually olive colored skin and looked like an Arab, kind of looked like Bin Laden, most likely. You know, and that must have been a real downer for some of those people that believe in Christ. I think that the reason so many people in the world are there's so many people that are converting over to Islam. It's really really odd, but I guess no, there's a lot of people converting to Christianity as well, and it's just weird. You never know why people do whatever they do, but I do think that even these menial, you know, things that I'm joking about, I think people do base some of their decisions on these idiotic things that I'm saying here, and I'm admitting they're idiotic because they're only for fun and games. I just like to laugh and make these things look as dumb as they are. But let's see what else they say.
A really good researcher. So that kind of got my attention a little bit about 20 years ago.
2008 or no, 2009, I was at some place in Vegas. I'm talking to an Army colonel, retired colonel, who had a lot of experience with black projects. He was a brilliant guy.
Wait a second, did he say black projects? So are we talking about like places in the Bronx, in the hood? What does he mean by that? Black projects. Are there going to be black aliens? Let's listen. I'm just kidding, guys. I'm being dumb. Sorry, I woke up. I didn't go to sleep, but I'm still in a funny mood. And some of the things they say are really funny.
And he told me a story about he and his wife was with him when he told the story. And they had another friend, a female friend, and they were at a Las Vegas casino. And he said, this guy, by the way, knew a lot about the UFO subject. But he said, we're on our own time. We're hanging out at a casino. I think it was the Wynn, actually, which is a great casino hotel. But I can't recall. He said, we're up there. We're on the second floor. And our friend, he said was a psychic, she stops two of them and she says, that woman over there is not human. And they look over and there's this very beautiful blonde woman in this striking blue outfit. Now, it's Las Vegas.
Yeah.
You get that there.
Sure. Blue is interesting, too.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, they're usually called waitresses. They walk around carrying a tray, and they're going to offer you alcohol. I'm just kidding. I don't know.
Yes. She and his wife get scared, and they go down the escalator, which is right there. The colonel is hanging behind, and he's looking at this woman, and he said to me, and that's when I heard her in my mind. She turned slightly, and he said, I heard her. She sounded like a cop on the beat, like, nothing to see here. Go about your business. You don't belong. Like, and it's like, how did I get that thought? And at that moment, she's joined by this beautiful blonde man wearing blue. Again, are you thinking Cirque du Soleil? Like, I don't know what this could be. But so they're hanging out. They're conferring. He doesn't hear anything at this point. So then they start walking toward the escalator where he is. So this guy is a colonel. He has a PhD. He's a sharp guy. And he's thinking, I am going to talk to these people. I don't know what I'm going to say.
Well, you know they serve alcohol over at these places. If you ever go to Vegas or ever go to Atlantic City, any of those places, that it's mainly alcohol and drugs. That's what these places circulate. So it doesn't surprise me that this. I'm not saying that it didn't happen. I'm saying that it's very plausible that if it would happen anywhere, Vegas. Whatever happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. Even alien encounters, guys.
I'm going to talk to them. I want to find out what the hell is going on here. So they walk toward him, and instead he says nothing. They get on the escalator, they go down, but then he gets behind them. And he said to me, I heard them conversing in their minds. I said, do you know that they weren't talking? He says, look, I'm pretty damn sure they weren't talking. I'm hearing. What were they saying? Well, they were saying something like, yeah, he can hear us. No, he's not important. He's not part of the program, or he's not part of anything we need to worry about. At this point, his wife interjected in the story. She was hilarious. She's like, oh yes, I remember this. My friend and I were peeking around the slot machines like this, like hiding behind the slot machine. So that was kind of nice little confirmation there. But anyways.
Okay, first of all, you have to ask yourself, I'm not being like funny here, or maybe I am, I don't know, but why in the world would the most intelligent beings go to Las Vegas in the first place? Ask yourself that question, people. Why would they choose the dumbest place in the world to go, where the most dumbest people go? It's like I don't mean to be mean here, guys, but I'm just saying, out of practicality, think about it. You have people that travel light years to interstellar travel, in space, that probably have all kinds of technology. They're like, yeah, let's go to Vegas. If this isn't an interstellar promo for Vegas, maybe there are aliens, and this probably is a commercial because they probably like watching these shows. They're like, hey, honey, I heard Earth has this great place called Vegas. Do you guys want to go next week? And we can watch these other people think they know what we're saying, or we can mess with them. I don't know. I'm just saying, you got to use common sense sometimes. Some of these things are just hilarious.
So the couple gets down to the bottom of the escalator, and they walk out, and they're gone. So then, the three of them are conferring, and they're like, that was crazy. So the woman, the psychic friend, also did regressive hypnosis. And she says, I could regress you, Colonel, so that maybe you can relax and maybe you can remember if there's anything more that you can remember about what you think you heard. Well, I guess that was the plan. So he's like, all right, cool. So he goes.
I just want to say, usually when people start hearing voices in their head, regressive therapy isn't the first thing that most people think about as a counselor, because I'm an addiction counselor. If we hear people saying that they hear voices in their head, first thing I'm not thinking is UFOs. I'm not thinking aliens. I'm not thinking regressive therapy. I'm thinking, okay, we're going to need a psychiatrist to get involved here. And I hate to be mean, guys. I'm just playing, okay? So I know some people might get offended because they probably look at this religiously and they're like, how could you say that? But I'm just like, come on. I've had UFO encounters when I was a child as well, so I'm not dismissing any of this. I'm just saying that I've had real encounters, and I know what that stuff is like. And there were no Nordic aliens there. There were some really strange things that I saw, but that's a whole nother story.
A day or two later, he's at her place in this cul-de-sac, quiet neighborhood, and he said, every time that she tried to regress me, we heard like construction noise outside, like jackhammers. They would go out to look and they didn't see anything. So he says, no biggie, I'll be back in about a month. Maybe we can get together and do this then. She's like, great. So a month later, he calls her. He says, hey, I'm going to be in town. Can we do that regression? She says, what regression? The regression last month, Las Vegas. Apparently, she remembered nothing of this encounter. I have one more story that I have to tell you.
And then in 2010, I had just put out a film called I Know What I Saw, which was a 2-hour special I sold to History Channel. And I got an email from Robert Bigelow. And it said, it was actually from his secretary. It said, this is Secretary, Mr. Bigelow wanted me to reach out on his behalf that congratulations on a job well done with your doc. Wow, Robert Bigelow? Whoa. I emailed back like, hey, would he like to get together or like maybe lunch or dinner, to discuss, kind of some of my next moves? Little did I know at the time, he had just signed a contract just a couple years earlier, right? With OSAP and ATIP. And yeah, sure. He'd love to meet you. Come to his house. So I went to his house, 2009, 2010. I'd have to look up the emails somewhere around there. And we had lunch. And he started talking about, the implications of disclosure, the impacts on society. I remember him saying, you take every scandal from Iran-Contra to Monica Lewinsky, all these scandals in the history of modern history, and multiply them, the impact those have had, multiply that by 1 million, and that's the impact this reality would have on the general public. And I remember thinking, come on, really, you really think so? I've always thought we really had this unifying effect on everybody. And then he goes, and they're walking among us. And I said, what do you mean? What do you mean they're walking among us? He goes, I mean exactly that. They're walking among us.
Yeah, they're in Vegas. They came here and they decided to go to Vegas, and they're playing the slot machines and they're winning. On top of it, they're taking all the money from the casinos and bringing it back to their planet. Oh God.
I had something happen to me a couple years earlier, which I've never spoken about ever because I would know. And And even that, when that happened, I didn't talk to anybody about it. No one. And even when he told me that, I still didn't talk about it. Because I had saw something one time in 2007.
So 2 years later, I'm in Erie, Pennsylvania. I got my table. I'm selling my little books to him, I think. And this very nice lady, she's about 60, walks up to my table with her husband. And she says, I got a story for you. Can I tell you? I'm like, yeah. So she says, when I was 15 years old, it would be about 1965, I was in church in Western Pennsylvania in a tiny little town with my mother. And she said, in our town, everyone knew everyone, especially in church. So she's in church. So she said, in front of me, in front of the aisle ahead of us, were this blonde couple, male, female, come walking in. She says they were absolutely gorgeous. They looked like supermodels. She said they had to...
Okay, every time I see this, you have to ask the question. So, all the aliens that come from whatever planet they come from, right, are just really beautiful white people with blonde hair and blue eyes. Are there any planets where there are the ugly blonde hair, blue-eyed people? Or are there any other planets where there are ugly people of color? Like ugly Indian people, ugly black people, ugly Chinese people? Is this like some of these planets separated where they're just like really beautiful white people, and then there's other planets where there's really beautiful people of color, and then there's other planets where there's really ugly white people and really ugly people of color? I don't know. I have no clue. I'm just trying to take a guess at why they keep mentioning the beautiful white people. I'm sorry. It just sounds weird to me. That's all.
This incredible blue clothing. I was looking at the fabric. She's a 15-year-old girl, so she's into fashion. She said, I have no...
That should tell you something. She's 15 years old, and she's into fashion. And how old is this guy here? And nobody's going to question that, because she's an alien. It's okay. On her planet, 15 is like 100 over there. So she's actually a lot older than him. That's how this works. So you have to think like that when you look at this stuff. Look, look, I'm not going to complain. Look, good for you, man. You're doing great. You're meeting these chicks that are 15 years old on this planet, but on their planet, they're probably 100, so everything's cool. I get it.
Never seen such incredible, beautiful clothing. And she's marveling and thinking, why is no one else in this church looking at these two people? She said they stuck out like a sore thumb. It's like, Marilyn Monroe and, Cary Grant.
How could you not stare at them?
Yeah. So, but no one was noticing them apparently. And then she said to me, and that's when I heard them in my mind. And
Oh, yeah. He found his soulmate at that point, even though she's only 15. But it's his soulmate. Look, this is getting... We're gonna keep watching this. This is getting interesting now.
Heard was one of them thinking to the other something like, well, we appear to be fitting in pretty well here. And she's like, and then one of them, maybe the same one, I don't know, said, except for the girl behind us who can hear us. And that's what she's like, practically freaking out.
This reminds me of The Shining, where the little kid can hear like what the old guy's saying in the movie. And I don't know if it's anything like that, but it just reminds me of it.
After that, she heard nothing. It's like they shut it down. The other thing she said about them is that they're in Mass, and they didn't really know how to... This is a Catholic Mass, which I grew up doing. Sit, kneel, sign of the cross, all that.
Yeah, this is great. So the aliens come here from other planets, right? And the two places that they choose to go is Las Vegas and at a Christian Mass. Am I the only one not thinking that this shit is crazy? Look, I'm not being like mean or anything, but come on. Somebody else has to be looking at this and be like, okay, there's something odd here. They travel light years across the universe to get to a planet, and they go to a casino and then go to church. Well, they might be human after all, actually. They might have more in common with us than we know. And I might like these people, or these aliens.
They're like looking around. They don't know what to do. So they clearly did not fit in.
Just trying to fit in.
Right. So it gets better. So she goes through the whole Mass. Mass ends. The couple
Look, if they break out a joint and they start smoking it like a blunt, this is going to get really good.
is up and out, and they book it out of the church. And she decides, I'm going after them. And she's following. They go down this hill. There's a field, and there's a wooded area. So they're not going to a parking lot or a car. So that's kind of interesting, too. Let's just, note that little discrepancy.
They're going into the woods. Have you ever seen the movie The Hills Have Eyes? I'm thinking the hills may have eyes.
That little bit. So she's going across the field. She's going down the hill, and then she stops dead in her tracks. She said, then I saw a third person at the entrance of the wooded area. She said, remember Lurch from the Addams Family?
No.
Looked just like that guy.
Terrifying.
Very tall, like a man in black, but very tall, kind of ungainly tall. Hat and a black suit, apparently. And this beautiful blonde supermodel couple from Venus or Pleiades or wherever they're from walk past him into the woods. Into the woods. He turns around and follows them. And that was her story.
I made eye contact with this individual, and it was like an immediate, and I'd never really considered this even in the realm of possibility. And I still don't know what I think, to be honest with you, what I really believe at the end of the day. But we had a telepathic, just like that.
Can you describe what the situation was?
So before I say anything, let me clarify something. In my encounter, telepathy is the communication, is what I remember as a kid. I remember hearing somebody's voice in my mind as a child. And I've been in therapy ever since, actually. No, I'm just kidding. No, I'm being stupid because I'm just acting dumb right now. But on a serious tip, when I did speak to whatever that was, it was some being of light that took the shape of a human through the light somehow. And I do actually, the thing was, it was a white-looking Caucasian person at the in the wherever the place was that I was at, but he wasn't tall. He was actually really short. Because I was like an 8-year-old kid, and he was almost just a little bit taller than me. It's like maybe he was Mexican. Actually, maybe that was the first illegal alien in the country. And I got to meet him. No, I'm just joking. I know I'm being dumb, but on a serious note, it was a shorter Caucasian gentleman that I saw. It was really strange, and he did communicate through my mind. It was weird, and it was telepathy. But that's why you can never tell where the reality meets fiction, and it's really hard. And also, me being a jackass doesn't help any because I'm joking about it.
And what this individual looked like?
I don't know if I want to go public fully on where it was, but it happened in Washington, D.C.
Okay.
Yeah. And the individual looked like relatively a normal person.
2 eyes, nose, and a mouth.
And the individual, I remember, was doing moving a chair or something like that. And this individual sensed that I was looking at him for whatever reason, kind of doing this, maybe dragging a chair, and then turned around and looked me right in the eyes. And it was like, holy shit. Like in myself, I wasn't scared, but it was like you're not human. But it was really, the individual knew that was the communication that the individual gave to me.
Actually, with him, I believe his story. Not that I disbelieve any other story, but for some reason he seems more genuine to me. And I've had encounters like that in the past as well, where I've seen people when I was younger, especially in New York City, up on Park Avenue area. Remember in Park Avenue? I don't know if you guys remember Park Avenue in the 40s and 50s streets, right? Between 40th and 50th Street was where the really wealthy people live. They still live there. But I remember walking down the street and seeing this person walking down the street that looked like he was the Walking Dead. Something was so strange looking about him. And I remember us making eye contact and thinking to myself, this person does not look human. It's like it was the first time he was wearing skin, or a human outfit. It was like the weirdest thing in the world. And he was walking down the street, and there were other people there watching him walk. And but I remember when we made eye contact, when I said that's not human. I remember that. Hold on, guys. I have to take my psychiatric medicine. Hold on. I'm just kidding. I'm being a jackass again, but no, seriously, I did have that experience though.
And knew that I had received it. And
It knew that you knew.
yes, like in an instant. And I knew, it knew, and I was okay. Big blue, like electric blue eyes, like piercing, like freeze in your tracks when you got icon when I made.
You know, that's kind of scary to most people of color, especially like African American people. That's probably why you don't see a lot of African American people talking about the Nordic great whites with the blue eyes. Every time they saw that in the past, it was usually something bad that was going to happen. I'm just saying, you have to be realistic about this stuff, you know. It wasn't always a great encounter.
Made eye contact. I never told a soul because I sound like a crazy guy, and I don't know what I don't even know what I saw.
So
I'm
that
just
is-
telling you what that was the communication that happened, and it happened like that, like that, and I wasn't scared.
What do they look like?
The eyes,
No, what did the person look like? Was
like
it
a normal person, dark skin,
Yeah.
relatively.
Did he just say dark skin? Did I just hear dark? Did anybody else just hear dark skin? If you did, leave it in the comments section. I might be hearing things right now.
Not sure of the ethnicity. I'm not entirely
Wasn't
sure.
Swedish or anything. Wasn't like
No,
Scandinavian.
No, mm-mm, no.
Tall-
Oh, they must have been hearing me talk just now, so they just changed this shit on us right now. I see what's going on. I'm just kidding, guys.
Tall particularly? Do you remember?
No, not tall.
Just
No,
regular
normal.
looking.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
What made you look in that direction?
I don't know. And I just remember it was like, you know, I mean, it was immediate.
And you knew.
Immediate communication. Just fucking bam, like that. And I wasn't scared. And then I went about my business and I never talked about
But
it.
it stuck with you.
Oh, fuck yeah. Yeah. But I didn't believe it. I didn't even believe it. You see my point? Like, I didn't believe that happened to me.
You know, this is one of those moments where here I am talking a lot of crap through the whole thing, and all of a sudden, they must have seen my comments in their other videos and finally got this guy and wrote the script and told him, look, let's shut this guy up now. So they knew they would catch me off guard like this. I don't know. I'm just playing.
But then I'm hearing other people talk about it, you know, Timothy Good, and then Bigelow, the alleged encounter in the desert from 1994, Nellis test range that Mr. Sands talks about. You know, I don't know. Did it happen? Do these things happen? Are they walking among us? I don't know.
The Travis one is the one I consider to be the most important.
Travis
when he got
Walton.
from a distance, they look 100% like humans. But the closer he got, he said, and I looked at this one person. He was very close to him, and he said the eyes gave him away right away that he was not human. So that totally got my attention because I thought that is very peculiar.
I wish they would tell us what about the eyes made them look non-human. You know, if they could somehow get some description of that would help quite a bit.
To have this faction of the story of Travis Walton, who I think has proven himself through the years with lie detector tests and collaborative witness accounts that he did have an experience, and he insisted of these tall, human-looking blonde beings that were there, 2 males and 1 female.
Crazy strong too.
Very
They
strong.
were like even the women.
Even
they
the
were, like,
woman
holding
is
them down
straight-
effortlessly.
I mean, he's a 6'2",
It's a big guy.
big guy. Very at the time he was
Lumberjack.
he's in the top of his shape at that time. So he said I was very strong, and they were able to move me very easily, like if it was a mechanical thing moving him. So that means they're stronger.
They also had the wildest, most sci-fi feature about them. Other than the suits they were wearing, they had fish bowls.
Fish
on their head.
bowls.
Now this is
Okay, I just had a really scary thought, not to take away from this whole amazing story that he's telling, but imagine if I'm just saying, just imagine hypothetically, if they were racist. For people of color, that would be scary. I know I keep bringing this up, but I'm just saying, just imagine that they had that kind of strength and they were like hunters and they were like, look, that's one of the dark ones, get him. That would be like sci-fi, horror, suspense, thriller. I would put some comedy into it too, but it would be a good movie.
something straight out of the Jetsons.
Yeah.
And the only reason I found that intriguing is because there is another case in the UK of a lady seeing a saucer just hanging in the air, and the occupants, being blonde,
that's right,
also had fish bowls.
That's right.
All I can describe, this huge Mexican hat. It was stationary, this thing.
Wait, huge Mexican hat? Okay, no, she's talking about the UFO. They were wearing sombreros in space.
And it was bright silver in colour, and it had a dome. A dome. It was tilted to sort of... I could see the occupants in it.
You saw people in it?
I saw people in it. There were 2 people in there. These people were beautiful people. That's the only way I can describe them. They had long golden hair, like a page boy bob, just like the old kings. You used to see photographs of the old kings. And the colour of the hair was golden. Now, I was really...
What were they dressed in?
They had a sort of a polo neck jumper affair, like a ski top suit, in pale blue. Now, these people weren't sat behind, one behind the other. They were sat together, but this, whatever it was tilted so that I could see them and they could see me. They had beautiful faces. I shall never forget their faces as long as I live. Their foreheads seemed to be a bit larger than, the bottom of their faces as normal people you would expect to see. But maybe this was just whatever they had round their heads, which was like a transparent fishbowl. And they just looked. And I was absolutely paralytic with fear. I couldn't move, although my mind was ticking over. And they looked so sympathetic.
Well, obviously they're not from this planet. I'm just kidding, guys.
But it's the mantises that seem to be calling the shots. So I'm very interested in them. And the personal side of it is, I dig mantises. So I had this, I have a mantis sanctuary at my home. I found this thing floating in my pool. It's now 10 years ago. And I thought it was a piece of wood. And I scooped it out and I realized, oh man, it's a praying mantis. Looks like it's dead. You know what? I'm going to put it over here in the courtyard and see if it comes back alive. I come out a half hour later, I open the front door. There's that damn mantis at the doorstop, looking up, trying to get in the house. I go, no, hold on there, little buddy. Scooped it up and I put it, we have a flower bed. And in the spring, we grow mint and it flowers. I put it in there. Best of luck to you. And that was a girl mantis because every year since then, on the 1st of May, I get a crop of mantises. And I made it into a sanctuary. I protect it. I don't let any yard guy come in and I don't let any insecticides be sprayed there. But at first it was a dozen mantises that were born.
I think he's getting into the, they have a group of aliens that look like mantises, like praying mantises. And I've heard about that. I haven't seen it myself, but I've heard about it. So this is interesting as well.
Suddenly I've got a bunch of them. The second and third year, it's several dozen. And then it was hundreds. And then we had a year, each year gets a little harder because the climate is changing, whether people want to admit it or not. But I protect that like it's my own children. I put up fences to keep people and animals and danger away from those mantises. And, it's part of it is because I just think they're little fascinating creatures. They're amazing. And then as I'm going through UFO research, I learned that about these mantid beings. And I figured, well, it doesn't help to be in good with the mantises. When the 8-foot tall ones land, maybe they put in a good word in with our new mantis overlords. And I'm only partially joking about that. But I love the mantises. I protect them. I dig them. They come back every year. This year I didn't know if I was going to have any left or not because so many of the adults ended up dead for one reason or another last year. And I didn't see any of these little mantis condo towers that they are like egg sacs that they leave. I didn't see any new ones. So I didn't know if they were going to come out until April 30th. I saw 2 little mantises and I was just happy as shit. And then May 1st, boom, there they are. Like right on, like they've got a calendar or something. They
Every May 1st?
Yeah, every May 1st. This is the 10th year.
There was this story, was it called The Mantis? this documentary?
Man versus Mantis.
Man versus Mantis.
Yeah.
This was fascinating to me.
So that was like right in the middle of my Mantis experiment, my sanctuary, as somebody sent that story to me. I reached out to that guy. I had him on Coast to Coast. He's a musician and a filmmaker, a fascinating guy, serious, smart, funny as hell. And he told me about this Man versus Mantis experience. And what happened to him has happened to so many other people, is that once you connect with the mantises on some level, you start seeing them everywhere. And maybe it's just your awareness grows or something like that, but in his life, suddenly it spread to everyone in his family. They're seeing mantises all over the place. And
Have you ever had an encounter with a mantis that wasn't...
in my garden? No.
Yeah.
No, I have not. That'd be pretty cool. Scary as hell, but it'd be pretty cool. I hope so someday.
What's your conviction on these mantids being real?
Attack now!
So guys, you're looking at Mopai here. This is a book that came out. It's on Amazon right now at forbiddenmantrapress.store. Energy unleashed the hidden powers of Mopai. I just want to throw that over to you guys to see.
I'd say somewhere around 60%. I don't really know.
It's pretty high.
Here's what I don't know. I don't know what they really look like. What we have learned from this phenomena in the big picture, not only did the ships change shapes, but the beings change shapes. And sometimes it happens while abductees are on board these craft, if it's really that craft. They manipulate our perceptions in so many ways. I'm not sure we really know what any of them look like.
I tend to think more of like intradimensional. And the reason I started doing DMT after maybe having done lots of drugs in my younger days is that I see it as perhaps not a hallucinogenic psychedelic drug, but a plant medicine technology that allows us access. So if I had to...
I've heard of this DMT before. As a matter of fact, it's become really popular. Even when Mike Tyson was talking about it on some of his podcasts, he actually had some life-changing events happen from that. But the weird part is that what they're describing in DMT, I've actually had very similar experiences through very deep, concentrated meditations that were like 12-hour-long meditations that didn't seem like 12 hours. It seemed like I just closed my eyes and opened my eyes like in a second until, all the time had passed by and I didn't know. But I do believe that DMT may trigger the part of the brain that helps to unlock what we do in meditation, but I don't know if doing it that way is safe. That's the only thing. I don't know how safe that is, because one is organic and the other one is an external stimulus. So let's see what he has to say anyway. I just want to compare notes.
To pick a favorite, I would say, maybe the machine elves in the DMT realm, because I have a feeling that aliens as we know them are probably AI. They've gone through their own Kurzweilian singularity, probably millions of years more advanced than us, and then can perhaps instantiate as needed in biological or synthetic form. And that DMT denizens, so to speak, are in turn billions of years more advanced than us. And I asked them during a DMT session, are you what we feel to be aliens and UFOs? And the answer I got back, trillions of miles of synapses firing, was, we can't explain in a way that you would understand.
It's funny because I hear that they have people that do channeling. If you ever watch any of the channelers, because I always thought about this, how could you have the technology to get into another person's consciousness, channel, they can channel you through, and you live in a much higher dimension, a much more advanced civilization, but you can't figure out a way to explain to us something. And, like any idea, like one of the things about intelligence is that with intelligence, you're actually able to express your ideas more clearly. That's usually why people are considered intelligent, because they can express their ideas very clearly. So it seems to work in reverse in a lot of these, these different situations that come up, whether it's DMT or it's channeling or whatever the case is. I remember there was this one time I saw this one video and I loved it, where they had some guy that was doing the channeling, and he's actually famous now. Everybody knows him as being a channeler. And they asked him a question about science, and he's speaking English, but he says, "I can't answer you in the way that you would understand." I think that is a very telltale sign that people just don't know what the hell they're talking about. I can't tell you in a way that you'll understand, even though I speak your language very fluently. It's just like, okay, yeah.
Powerful, but also convenient.
Well, and it didn't feel to me like deflecting.
Sure.
But it felt to me like, okay, if an ant is looking at a Chevrolet transmission, what are they going to understand? Even if that you start explaining.
There's no point.
And so, that's not.
Yeah, but what they leave out here is that we can't even communicate with ants as humans, and we're the most highly evolved species, on the planet. Supposedly, I don't know if we are or not, but that's what we're told. I think dolphins may be smarter than us, but that thing, whatever it was that they channel through, spoke your language, speaking through you with your language. So it must retain some of your memory and your understanding. If they have that much technology, why can't it be like in the Matrix where they just download the information? That's why I think some of this is kind of bogus. It's like, come on, man. If we got that far where they can get into your head like that, they must be able to transfer information, because it is a transference of information when they're channeling, right? Think about it.
No, and it just seems to me, a lot of people, especially at this conference, my good friends, are working on disclosure. They got that covered. So I'm going the end around, the exposure, to see if I can't do the Andrew Gallimorian route of going to the source. And I think that's where they are. That's where they're going to be, and where we're going to be, if we can survive this transition.
Yeah.
I'm less afraid about the future of artificial intelligence than the present of human stupidity. We might not make it until a singularity. One that I found very interesting. We were filming an episode of an Australian TV show. They're doing like a different psychedelic each episode. I'm the DMT guy, and so we had a husband and wife doing DMT, and the wife was crying. I mean, deep sobbing the whole time. And for those of us who've done psychedelics, that's not necessarily bad. This is not fun and games. It's more like work. It could be therapy. And so afterwards, we asked her on camera, what did you experience? And this wasn't so much an other entity story, but I'm going to loop it back around.
She was like, it was like biting into a York peppermint patty, and you feel like you're at the top of the mountain and the wind's just blowing. I'm kidding, guys. I'm sorry.
She said that she saw the creation of her soul and felt the attendant fear her not yet instantiated soul felt about assuming human form. And that helped her understand some of her legacy fears that she carries with her today. First time I did DMT and I asked that question,
I guess some people are a little bit more complicated than others.
I felt that I saw the creators of the very fabric of the universe. And I saw the universe, the new material being bubbled up. And I saw the people around almost like a cauldron, like a galactic cauldron.
What do they look like, these people? Do you have like a clear image or like a hazy image? Or
I don't, Chris. I don't see so much. I feel them.
Right.
And I felt them around there. And I'm feeling, wow, this...
And they felt like tall white blondes. I'm just kidding.
This is the work of the universe. And the other feeling I had was I'm on the other side of the universe, but I'm home. And then later that night, when I circle back to DMT a lot, I did another session, and this time it was the universe coming into me and healing me of emotional trauma. And I'm trying to receive it as much as I can. 2 weeks later, do it again, and it said to me, welcome back, Paul. Let's resume where we left off last time. So
that's exactly like ChatGPT. I mean, not that the universe come into you, but he said, welcome back, Paul. Let's resume where we left off last time. So is he talking to an artificial intelligence here?
The universe remembered me by name and remembered our last appointment.
Like a therapy session.
Yeah, so I find these things, these types of experiences, again, it seems to, for me, blur the lines between others and ourselves, and whether those others are consistent, permanent state entities, or if they may meld into others.
What is your conviction on this particular type being real, is it very high?
I can 100%
That they exist.
that they exist.
Do you think they're among us, these ones?
I believe so. I don't know about 100% on that because I believe 100% that they exist, that they live among us. My conviction is maybe 95%. So I give 5% to, who knows, it could be complete, bad misperceptions of people, and you always have to leave a little bit. I do believe they exist. I don't know if they're among us.
Well, if you go to Las Vegas and you go to church, there's a good chance you're going to get to see one of these aliens. And they're usually blonde hair, blue-eyed, and really pretty. So I'll be on the lookout for some of these aliens. I'm going to start going up to some of these blonde hair, blue-eyed, pretty people and ask them, are you from another planet? If you are, can you hear what's in my mind? Imagine how weird that would look.
What's your conviction on these mantids being real?
I'd say somewhere around 60%.
What's your conviction on the Nordics being real?
All low. It's a low on everything.
Yeah.
I don't know. The way I look at UFO research is that's not true. There are gradations of probability. There being a phenomena that's real, I'm very high conviction.
Yeah, of course.
Reality being weirder than we think.
But
very real.
the specific
Nordic, super low.
super low, but not zero.
Not zero. Not zero. Yeah.
High, low, 50%.
At this point, I'm at 80%.
It's pretty high.
Yeah. Because I was thinking about actually when I was doing laps in the pool, I was thinking to myself, if I had to, like someone said, you got to make a decision. You have to make either yes or no. I was like, it would be yes. It would be yes. Because if it was a no, I would have to dismiss so many testimonies. I'd have to dismiss all of them, including my own.
Oh, of the human-looking type?
Yes.
Yeah, I would say 99 to 100%. I have very little doubt at this point. I mean, it could be anywhere.
And I do think there's enough evidence in different fields to suggest, let's say, meta-terrestrials, that there's something beyond our current awareness, something beyond super secret military capabilities. And I think there is an other. And you ask if they're real, so I think there's an objective reality to them. But
I just have to say that the only thing that seems kind of hokey about this is that they kept emphasizing on the beauty and, the blue eyes and the blonde hair thing. And I kept looking at that as like, it's almost like they're programming people by saying this over and over and over in every episode when there's no factual proof of anything here. It's almost like learning about Christ, back in the day and just seeing pictures of him with blonde hair and blue eyes. So eventually people come to the image that, oh yeah, God and Christ have to be one and the same, and it's a blonde hair, blue eyed guy in the sky. And now you're taking a next generation that doesn't believe in God anymore, and now they have this going on. And like, oh, if aliens come down, they're going to be really pretty blonde hair, blue eyed people. Do you guys see the pattern here? Am I the only one seeing? And this has nothing to do against white people. I have nothing against any race in particular. People in particular that I may dislike, no matter what color they are, if they're just being a-holes or whatever. But I don't discriminate based on color, race, religion, or any of that stuff. I discriminate on the way you treat me. Kind of like Christ said, treat others the way you want to be treated. And so I kind of use that logic. But at the same time, some of this stuff seems really hokey. Like I said, they keep repeating the same things over and over, and a lot of this stuff, and I feel like it's brainwashing in some sense, especially to younger folks, because this puts the idea that if you have the most highly intelligent form of human species in an alien form, it's going to be a blonde-haired, blue-eyed person, which kind of seems dumb. When you go back to the ancient mythologies of all cultures, there were all different types of people, especially in Hinduism. Most of the gods in Hinduism actually were very dark-skinned, but they paint them blue, and people don't realize that. And this whole thing isn't about race that I'm talking about. I'm just saying that why do they leave out all this other stuff and always push the same message all the time and the same description of the people? It's always being pushed, whether it's aliens or God or Christ or whatever, but you never hear about the other countries and the other way people see things as well. So I think we're all being duped, not just people of color, but everyone in general. We're all being duped by these people that are doing that. I think it's ridiculous, to be honest. there's got to be alien life forms out there that are more highly evolved that might not be very pretty to look at. Maybe they're actually ugly. Maybe they're despicable to look at, but they're highly intelligent. So there's got to, keep stop pushing this idea of beauty associated with intelligence or higher intelligence and higher evolution. They have to quit pushing that whole idea. I think that's ridiculous.
But there was kind of a nuance, and I want to tease out what you said about, are they real in how they appear? That may not be the case. They may instantiate. And I have a hunch that a lot of things that we sort of silo as different phenomena may be essentially the same. There may be this root level of Hertakian consciousness that manifests in different ways for different reasons.
You've got stories even going back centuries at times of intriguing encounters with beings that don't seem like they come from here. In one of my books, I recounted a story from a guy named, the hell's his name? Fazio Cardano. He was a 16th century Italian lawyer, and I think he was a doctor, a physician, a brilliant man. His father, Gerolamo Cardano, was a friend of Leonardo da Vinci. So these are very, high-level people. So Fazio Cardano, who was known throughout Europe, he was a brilliant man. He said, my father told me for years of an encounter he had with this group of, I think, 5 guys who came into his studio one day and told him about, he said, we've been observing your people for many, many years. He says, who are you people? What are you like? Apparently they lived for hundreds of years. He says, do you believe in God? And he said, they looked at each other and they didn't all have the same opinion on that.
Whoa.
In the same way.
That's a wonderful little tale.
It's a very interesting, yeah. So a story like that, I think, I can't just throw that out. It comes from, it's 500 years old, but Fazio Cardano is a known high-level individual of his time.
So here's something interesting, which people don't know about me. If you do know who I am, then you do know this. When they first came out with the Indigo Kids, which were children that had superhuman abilities, they also had strange genetics. One of the things about the genetics, they carried a gene that gave them HIV resistance to HIV and AIDS. That was a sign that they were an evolved species. I recently did a test through a very popular company that does these tests. I'm not going to do any free advertising, but I got back the test and I did see I had a gene there. I wasn't sure what this gene was, so I have a friend who is a geneticist. I told him to look at it, and he pretty much 100% said that, as being a geneticist with his work, he understands what's going on. He says that he's never seen it before. He goes, but you have a very rare gene. And he says it's so rare that there's less than 1% of the people, or point something, it was like 0.08% of the population of the world that have this gene. I think it's called RS333 if I remember correctly. And the gene gives me full resistance to HIV and AIDS. Now, I knew even before they told me that there was something different about me, because I was in school, I was always learning much faster than everyone else. And also figuring things out that other people can figure out. And even the teachers would make comments about me knowing so many things. And it's funny that not once on any of these different stations, we always see stories about white people all the time about their encounters. I actually have physical documentation of proof of the things I've actually experienced. And not one of them have ever contacted me to talk about this, or any other person of color for that matter. The only person that actually gets anywhere close is the guy from Forbidden Knowledge. I forget his name now, but he's become very famous within this community, which I look at the community and I just look at it very poorly, because they don't incorporate other people, especially someone like myself that's, I've been practicing yoga since I was 9 as well. And I just think if they would open up the doors to people of other cultures and hear our stories, that it would make this community a lot brighter and a lot bigger. They should really think about that, and also have a sense of humor about themselves. They always they have somewhat of a sense of humor, but they need to have more of a sense of humor, I think.
Had a very high reputation. He was just telling this crazy story. He's not talking about aliens.
No.
but these were human-looking beings. He said their robes, their clothing was like perfect. It's like amazing.
Blue.
I don't know. I can't remember if he gave the colors.
So they had really nice clothing on top of it. So they were probably shopping. If they were in Vegas, they probably went to some of these expensive stores and got some expensive clothes. They have expensive taste, whoever these people are.
If star-to-star travel is possible, then let's go back in time. Forever, for millions and billions of years, various entities, various species were able to move around the galaxy. And where they really, what was their interest, right? We want to check out those moon rocks, or just look at stars. They'd probably teach their kids how stars work. The only thing worth looking for in this galaxy is life, without question. The most complicated thing we know. And some life forms are probably more complicated than us. And so they are moving around, going to a planet with life, taking some samples of it to study, work with, right? And then maybe give it and get somebody else. What I'm trying to say is that logic says that life types, forms, DNA, whatever, has been spread all around the galaxy by civilizations that have come and gone. And they've taken and they're working with it. And so they may be working with DNA from 100,000 light years from here, and yet working with some of our DNA. In other words, we are connected already galactically, genetically, in a sense. The life essence and whatever forms, DNA and other versions, have been taken and moved and integrated and what have you. And they've taken stuff from us as well. And so that makes this much more profound. If we can go to the stars, eventually we're going to learn that we have a connection of various levels with major parts of the galaxy that is a fully living entity. Makes Gaia look almost pale in comparison. Right. Which then brings me to this. We are about to get disclosure. It is a long time coming. It's not like the ancient times when they would come down and they were just gods. That was it. You're gods. Okay. You're gods. So if you're an ET, you need a god time. Be treated like a god, like a vacation. Come to the earth and worship the hell out of you.
Yeah. Well, that might be true. They may have some form of disclosure, but there are so many people on the planet that believe in the idea of a god and a god that's coming back to basically wage war and to right the wrong and do all this wonderful, great, miraculous stuff. So that is a big part of the expectation of human beings as well. That hasn't been erased. I don't know what we're going to actually end up, if any of us will be around for that disclosure. If it's going to be in our lifetime, it would be great. But I do believe that there will be some disclosure. And I'm not going to be sitting there looking for any beautiful white, people that are coming in through spaceships. I'm going to be looking and listening for people that resonate with me on a much deeper spiritual level. They probably won't. I don't even believe that they're going to be in physical form. I believe that if there are beings out there, that they may have a completely different form, and that's just my thinking. I'm just using my understanding and saying that, we may be able to communicate on a level of understanding that's much deeper than the physical realm. And that's what I truly believe, like even all the different religions in the world talk about that the true beings, the true spiritual beings are the ones that's eternal in life. Like they would have to, if you're going to travel light years and traverse the entire universe, you would have to have a very long lifespan to be able to do these things. And I would think that your physical, or your whatever you want, I don't even know if you use the word biological here, but whatever type of makeup composition they would be, it would not be of exactly the same material or composition of what we're made up as. It would be something that would be able to last a lot longer and be much more durable than what we have as fragile human beings in a physical biological suit or our body, whatever you want to call it.
This is not like that. We are an advanced technological spacefaring civilization and we have massive weapons. We're about to get more, and we may have interstellar travel pretty soon. So this is a coming out party. It's a bar mitzvah. It's the biggest paradigm shift in history.
We're only at the beginning of a kind of probably a fundamental re-understanding of reality. Like having the ability to manipulate and control reality, like alchemists and magicians. I actually think that we're probably getting close to that. And I think, and when we get there, we're going to have a completely different understanding of like, what's the substrate of reality? I'm starting to think it's probably just information, and intelligence is simply organized information, getting to a higher level of.
So if they use the word substrate a lot, and a lot of people I found out don't know what that word means, you know, and what basically they're saying is what's underneath, or what's the body of where this comes from. So they're saying that, you know, the consciousness or life or whatever, existence or whatever you want to call it, what is the substrate of the consciousness? It could be, they're saying information, a body of information most likely, you know, or an ocean of, or like an ocean of information in some way. But you could take that even further and look at that from a physics point of view, and that's already been spoken about multiple times over and over, going way back from the 1930s, for like I think in physics, where they started to really explore the quantum world more and more, and started coming up with answers that, hey, this stuff is everywhere, it's in everything. So that substrate of the known physical existence would be the quantized world, you know, the quantum realm. You know, that would be the substrate of the physical universe, is the quantum makeup of everything. So that's kind of what they mean when they use that word. I hope that clarifies for some of you.
Awareness, what we might call consciousness, and we're now at we're just vessels for intelligence. That's really, I think, what we are, and they are operating at a level of complex information that we are not yet there, but we're improving by leaps and bounds.
You know, they also use the word, you know, he keeps using the word that, you know, we're comprised of mainly intelligence, or vessels of intelligence. Now, you know, I'm not being mean here or anything, but if that was true, you know, you would think that people would do something. And this is why I'm not a Christian, but I like some of the things that this guy Christ said. He really spoke a lot of interesting things. Him, the Buddha, a lot of other of the great beings of the past, a lot of the yogis of India, a lot of the great beings of China. You know, there have been people in the past all over the world, millennia ago, that left writings of what they thought. And when you think of really having intelligence, I think it comes down to that golden rule that Christ talks about. It's treat others the way you want to be treated. Because why? When you go through life, that's what it really comes down to in the end. Because even if you have millions and billions of dollars, all you want when you're old and you're dying is for someone to show you and treat you with kindness. Same thing you want when you come into this world as a baby and as a child. That's all you want. So all this mumbo jumbo about, you know, being beautiful and pretty and having highly intelligent and this and that, to me is a bunch of caca. A lot of it doesn't make any sense. You know, there has to be a spiritual element to this, and a lot of these guys seem to miss that spiritual element. But that's where I fit in as a spiritual philanthropist. I am Rav Shiva, guys, and I think I've had enough of this. If you guys want to watch, it's called UFO Experts Discuss Alien Encounters. It is on this channel, Area 52. Check it out. You might like it. I just stumbled across it, so I wanted to put it out there for you guys, and also just have a little bit of fun with it. I like having fun when I talk about these issues, these topics, and that's just me. So I hope you guys enjoyed what I did. If you did, you can send me gold. I take gold, diamonds, whatever you have valuable, you can send it to. I'm just kidding, guys. Just hit the notification bell. You get all my videos. If you want to check me out, I'll be doing some more videos like this coming up, and I don't really have a time that I do it, so it's better to hit that notification bell if you do really want to see what I do, and it'll always give you a warning, this funny guy's about to talk, the spiritual crazy philanthropist. Alright guys, have a great, wonderful morning. That's what it is for me right now. Some of you it's evening. Have a great evening, great night, and I will see you guys in the next video. As they say in all different lands, Namaste, Assalamu alaikum, Shalom, all that good stuff. Talk to you guys. Stay safe.